this is his woke culture war. This is his culture war against things that he doesn't believe in and want to see, and it's actually extending to our service academies.
Well,
West
you don't
Point,
have to
Air
be
Force
Donald
Academy.
Trump to think that there's been something rotten on campuses for quite a long time.
Hey everyone, so Bill Maher had Democratic Rep Jason Crow on his show, and the two got into a heated discussion about Trump's approach to the universities, the organization of the universities, and whether they need an overhaul. And Bill Maher says yes, they do. So let's get into it.
I'm not totally against it.
Yeah.
Academia needed a hot poker up the ass. Yep. I'm not saying not everything the way he's doing it, of course, is the right way. To defund scientific research is not the way to do it. But I mean, our universities have been out of control for a long time. They became indoctrination factories. They forgot there's absolutely no diversity of thought.
Well, and they're continuing to racially discriminate against the law.
And
the Supreme Court ruled 2 years ago.
I mean, there's a lot of inefficiencies. The overhead in higher education, why it's...
Okay, so you can already see that Crow is going to pivot away from the allegations of racial discrimination because he likely knows that that would be a very difficult thing to counter. In the past, universities were very open about their intent to discriminate against people of certain ethnicities, largely white people. Now, with the Supreme Court ruling, they've had to turn to other methods of determining not only ideological fit, but race. And a lot of that comes through the supplemental essays where applicants might be encouraged to say, write about a time when they talked to someone with a different viewpoint or overcame a problem. These might seem like kind of innocuous questions, but they open the door for savvy applicants to shoehorn in a sob story or something about their personal battle to overcome internalized racism or whatever's popular these days. There's even a new aspect to college applications, which some top universities are trying for the first time, I think, this fall. Now, this is a creation of Saul Khan from Khan Academy, and they're called dialogues. So the idea is that you get these students and they sit down with a peer over Zoom, and they have dialogues about various contentious topics. They talk about immigration, they talk about climate change, they talk about gun control. And the students then rate each other and give each other some sort of empathy score as to how the other person conducted themselves. Now, you can probably already think of many objections to this kind of filter. I mean, you're selecting for people who are basically agreeable and don't have opinions which are overly controversial. It's a really easy way for universities to make sure that the furthest right they get with their student body is an establishment Democrat. So Bill Maher and the other guest are totally correct on this issue. The universities needed a wake-up call. It's not just that the universities have these standards, it's that they're taking taxpayer money to do these things. You saw a similar kind of protest from supporters of NPR or PBS who were angry that the government was rescinding taxpayer dollars from these organizations. I think a better approach, and the one that the Trump administration is taking on certain issues, is to make these institutions justify themselves, to make them give a good defense of why they need exorbitant amounts of taxpayer money to fund their activities. And as it turns out, many of the institutions can't come up with a good answer. But let's hear what the Democratic rep has to say. Maybe he'll make a strong case.
So much more expensive than when I went. The overhead is very high, but I also want to be really clear that Donald Trump is not interested in making them more efficient or getting rid of overhead or dealing with affordability. This is his woke culture war. This is his culture war against things that he doesn't believe in and want to see, and it's actually extending to our service academies.
Well,
West
you don't
Point,
have to
Air
be
Force
Donald
Academy.
Trump to think that there's been something rotten on campuses for quite a long time.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is one of those members of the woke right that I've heard about. It's a totally ridiculous assertion, and the truth is that there's really no such thing as an ideologically neutral campus. I mean, you're always going to have the institution underpinned by some sort of ideology or prior, and I would prefer that it not be a leftist prior as you have right now, which seems intent on deconstructing and tearing down and never builds anything of worth. Now, Maher is also right that you don't have to be Donald Trump to notice these issues. William F. Buckley wrote God and Man at Yale in the 1950s, and he noticed this trend of universities producing leftist students, of universities becoming somewhat hostile to Christianity, or at least asserting that Christianity is some sort of imposition on reality itself, which is supposed to be secular and rational and scientific and atheistic, basically. Another trend that I'm noticing among Democrats is that their post-Trump election pivot seems to be just focusing on affordability and trying to make this an isolated issue from so-called culture war topics. I'm thinking here of the likes of Elisa Slotkin. I'm thinking, too, of Dems who would like to credit Zoran Mamdani's win to a focus on affordability in New York and food prices and rent and all these things. And yes, he did talk about that a lot in his campaign, but that doesn't diminish the fact that he is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America and that he does spout all of this radical rhetoric, which is appealing to a certain crowd. Anyhow, let's continue with Bill Maher.
When you cannot speak the other side of the coin, when conservative thought, whatever you think of it, is just verboten, which is basically what happened on the, and some of the ideas. I mean, why do you think they erupted, so many of them, in cheers for what happened on October 7th? Why do you have professors coming out there and saying they were exhilarated by this mass massacre of people? Okay, that didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Something, you know, the ivory towers. And also, they're just very anti-America.
Yeah.
Now, Trump is too pro-America.
Yeah, so a lot of the ideas that trickled down into the mainstream and sort of exploded in 2020 originated in academia even decades prior. The things which the majority of normal people find so objectionable or odd, like trans and gender ideology, like racial grievance theories. But yes, many of them began as intellectual exercises for these professors in academia. And one of those strains, as Maher mentions, is anti-Americanism. And it does follow naturally from their chain of logic, which is that white people are evil, they did all these evil things, that's why everyone else is suffering. America was founded by white people, and so it's also evil. Anyway, this theory obviously only extends so far because you don't see this mass exodus of intellectuals from America. Granted, some of them, and we did lose Rosie O'Donnell, so a moment of silence for that. But the greater sort of migration that America has seen is this huge clamoring of people to get in over the southern border. Democrats will tell you about the perils of being an undocumented citizen, whatever that means, about how dangerous it is, about how psychologically torturous it is. And despite all of that, people still want to come to America. So maybe the left would just chalk it up to economic prosperity gained at the cost of other countries. But that's the sort of low-level analysis that people are being taught in these colleges. I'd be happy to see it go. I don't think that the Trump administration's actions here are really enough to trigger a cultural shift within the universities because they're just so captured at every level, but it could be a good start. And at the very least, it would be fantastic if these universities were afraid of discriminating on the basis of race because they knew that the Trump administration was watching them. But what do you think of Trump's approach to the universities? What do you think of this conversation? Let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.